family. How are you? Thank you so much for being here. And wait a minute, is something missing? No, it's not. No, I'm just kidding. So I am flying solo today. We are going to be talking about this Netflix documentary about America's Next Top Model. Yeah, and hubby, that's just not something that he would even want to be part of. So I wasn't going to make him have to do that. But first, I want to thank everybody for coming back. We hit our first 100 subscribers thanks to you all. And so, yeah, what does he always say? If you like us, hit the like button. If you don't like us, hit it 3 times. Like and subscribe and share with people that you don't like with 10 people. That's his spiel. That's not mine. But seriously, we appreciate the love. Please stick around and hang with us some more. We're about to talk about this America's Next Top Model documentary. Okay, so I want to first start out and say this is not any intention to ever bash Tyra Banks. I've respected that woman ever since she hit the scene. So if it sounds like bashing, it's not bashing. It's just repeating what I saw on the documentary, if that makes sense. So I just wanted to put that out there. So where do we start? Like, Tyra Banks doesn't need any introduction. We all know who she is, and America's Next Top Model was an idea that she had, kind of a mixture between the real world and American Idol. And so here we go, put these two together and make this baby that UPN picked up in the early 2000s, and here we are, America's Next Top Model. It was my early college years, so I was never anybody that actually sat there and waited for it to come out. I would always binge it on a break, so I never was like, oh my gosh, it's Wednesday, or what. I don't even know what day it even came on, but I would always binge it, so I would get it all in one setting. And I was, the same age as a lot of those girls, so I knew a lot of it was kind of strange, but I had no clue the level of what these girls went through and the trauma that it caused until I saw this documentary in real time. 3 episodes back to back to back, because I couldn't stop watching it. I just sat there and watched it all the way through. So I'm just wanting to talk. I would love y'all to get in the comments and we have some real conversations, because I have nobody else to talk to about this right now. So I'm just talking to you. I would need you to talk back to me, because I want to know what y'all think, especially if you were, around that age or younger. Like, what about when you were younger? What did you think? But anyway, let's where do we start? I mean, the photo shoots. Did y'all think that they were just kind of extreme? The tarantula, and it just kind of it kept building up. The tarantula, the extreme heights. They had to take photos in the bottom of a 6-foot grave in a cemetery after, I think her name was Kaylin, had found out that one of her really good friends had just passed on and had to do it anyway. They had to wear raw meat, like actually had raw meat around their private areas. Yeah, they posed with roaches. I remember another one where like they were like suspended over a river in Thailand with dead fish, and it was just extreme. And then there were 2 that really stuck out. The first one that really was, this is the runner-up to being the worst, was the one that even Ken Mock said that really disturbed him. It was a celebration of violence.
I take full responsibility for that shoot. That was a mistake. I look back now and I think it was a celebration of like violence. It was crazy. That one, I look back and I'm like, you were an idiot.
When I was a kid, my mom was shot and she was paralyzed from the waist down.
And Dion was forced to pose as she had just gotten pewed through the head, and turned out she was dealing with her mother, who had actually had a situation with violence that she lived through. But props to you, Dion, because she peeped game. She knew that they wanted to get some sort of reality reaction from her, and she didn't give them to them.
When I was 6 years old, my mom was shot by this guy. He was jealous that she was getting married. They knew about it from the application process, but they still chose to have me do this particular photo shoot that involved gun violence. I thought it was a coincidence at the time, but I don't think it was.
Dion took a little while to warm up, and she really didn't take much initiative to improvise.
I think they wanted to see some type of mental breakdown or, you know, to see me crumble. I'm just glad that they didn't get the reaction that I feel like they were hoping to get.
It's a great picture.
So the other one that was the most disturbing, and I will admit, at that age, I didn't really think nothing of it, y'all. And I'm gonna be completely honest, I was literally 19, 20 in college. When they did the race swap, yeah, they did the blackface and, you know, but Mr. J, and we'll talk about him in a minute, he was the creative director. Mr. J said that that it was really disturbing to him because his parents grew up in South Africa during apartheid. So and you could see, like, when they actually showed the shots of him, he was so uncomfortable explaining the process of that photo shoot to the girl. Tyra, when she was talking on the documentary, she was like, yeah, you know, it was, you know, people came back and were like, girl, what were you thinking? But they did it again a few cycles later, so I guess it wasn't that bad, whatever backlash they got, right? So I don't know. What are your thoughts there? And then the girls came out and said, since we're talking about the photo shoots, that a lot of the times the photos that they used at panel weren't their best shots. And even Mr. J came back and said, yeah, that was actually on purpose and orchestrated to get that TV moment, I guess, that TV reality reaction. So it just seems like, I don't know, you're working hard. These ladies, they were young, this was their dream, and it was like they were being sabotaged from day one. Let's talk about the makeovers. Is that cool? The makeovers? Okay, so I was always disturbed by the makeovers. As a Black woman who grew up, I always had long, natural, real hair. And during that time, in the early 2000s, when Black women, I can't speak for white women, but when Black people had quote unquote weave, it wasn't something that they wanted everybody to know. It was nowhere near as popular and, I'm not gonna say it wasn't accepted, but people just didn't walk around saying, I got a weave, except Tyra Banks. She was one of the only women I ever heard say, yeah, me and my weave, and yeah, I got my weave. I'd never heard a Black woman ever talk about having a weave like her. And if you think about it back then, we really didn't see her natural hair since what? Higher Learning? I mean, after that, I mean, you tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember seeing her natural hair after that movie. But I could be wrong. One thing that really bothered me, and I caught it, I clocked it, which I say clocked it, whenever a Black girl came in and had pretty long, natural, real hair, that got chopped off. Why did we do that, sis? Seriously, that's one reason why, if I ever had any dreams of going to American Next Top Model, after seeing that, no, because when you have long hair as a Black woman at that time, it meant something, and it was hard to get it to that point. Relax, not whatever. It was hard, and to come there and let that be a part of your identity, because for a lot of people it was, to have it chopped off, when you're supposed to be feeling your best and posing, and all your life you've been posing and flipping your hair. No, ma'am, no. That was literally sabotage from the beginning. So for the women that actually got their hair chopped off and were able to go forward and do your thing, props to you. But then the Black women that didn't have long hair, she gave them weave. That just bugged me as a Black woman at that age. Again, the comments are there. I would love to know what you think about that, but I digress. Back to the makeovers. So then the women that were getting their bleached blonde hair had reactions to it, because shouldn't you be checking to see if people have allergies to that stuff? I mean, you tell me. That's a very, very intense process that you have to go through, where it sits on your scalp. And if you have any allergy to formaldehyde or anything like that, you're going to have a reaction, which a lot of those girls did. Then when their scalps are burning and they're crying and complaining, they're getting made fun of by people that are supposed to be mentoring them and consoling them. And then the other contestants are complaining that they're complaining. And that's how the makeovers were always like the second episode. Like this was like very early on in the competition. And then we get to the extreme point where we're now giving girls dental work. Joni, y'all remember Joni, right? They pulled all that girl's teeth out. And the ones that she had left, shaved them down and gave her veneers because, okay, she didn't have a perfect smile, but y'all chose her. Y'all chose to be part of the show with the smile that she had. So not sure you chose her just to rip all of her teeth out. And the bad part about that is that in the documentary, we find out that, yeah, they made it pretty, but not functional. She still has dental issues to this day because of that procedure. And was it worth it? Joni says no, that it was not. Then so let's talk about Danny. Oh, Danielle, Danny. Little girl from Arkansas. America's Next Top Model was her ticket out. And she made it. And she was faced with what? Her gap. What did Tyra say?
See, it's easier, it's beautiful cover girl. It's not marketable.
I don't want to completely close it.
Well, I guess she just left the gap wide open for another girl, baby.
I agree.
She tried to hold on to her gap. And Danny, we applaud you for trying to hold on to your gap because that was you and that's what made you unique. But Danny went ahead and allowed Tyra to fill her gap in even though she didn't want to. But then to find out that a few cycles later, created a gap for another contestant. What? I mean, what? So that person could be easy breezy, beautiful cover girl, but Danny couldn't? At a loss for words. But anyway, let's go back to Danny. Because Danny, very beautiful, was beautiful from the beginning with her gap, was beautiful at the end without her gap. The very last episode in that fashion show, I mean, Danny did her thing. She was a trendsetter, and I believe that's what her gap stood. She stood for that. She stood up for herself. She did her thing, and she was trying to always be true to herself. And she said that after she won America's Next Top Model and she was trying to find work, it was very difficult. Her very first show season, she couldn't book any shows because she later found out that the designers did not want a reality star in their shows because she would potentially overshadow their designs with her, status as being a reality star. And so Danny apparently went to her mentor, Tyra, and Tyra admitted that she knew that there was going to be a stigma on Danny because she was on America's Next Top Model. And she never said anything, never tried to help her, nothing. And that's when in the documentary, Danny actually began to cry. And just everything that she went through to win that, to not be able to move forward, and the person that helps you get there isn't there to help you. It's unacceptable, and it's heartbreaking. Unacceptable and heartbreaking.
You don't gotta support me, you don't even gotta like me, but don't see me in my suffering and just walk past me. It's so fucked up.
Let's talk Kenya. I thought she was a beautiful girl, had a very beautiful figure, in my opinion, but once the show kept going on, because everybody, takes and handles stress differently, and she was under pressure and overwhelmed and stressed, and she apparently started to gain weight.
Well, let's start from the beginning, shall we?
So what does she do? Go from a 0 to a 2, but when she's on panel, she's getting called fat and overweight and pudgy. And then to add insult to injury, because she was already in her head about this so-called weight gain, in the graveyard shoot, everybody was assigned one of the seven deadly sins, and she was given gluttony and was put in a casket in the bottom of a grave, covered in food, supposed to be posing and being, you know, surrounded by food, when she's already been called fat and is dealing with weight gain. And then Tyra in panel. In the panel, Tyra's like, yeah, that's just not doing it for me, girl. You should have had the donut hanging out your mouth.
I would have liked to see the donut hanging out your mouth.
What? And then in South Africa, all the girls are posing as animals. This is their, you know, they're out in South Africa, and you're gonna be a gazelle, and you're gonna be a cheetah, and guess what? You're gonna be, Kenya, an elephant. So at that point, Kenya's like, okay, I see what y'all are doing, and she did her best. But can you blame her? It's just like, wow, you're just picking. You're picking away at my soul. You see I'm already vulnerable. You see I'm already upset. And they just kept on picking at Kenya. And then the last photo shoot they did in South Africa was with 3 male models, and the theme was to dance. And I mean, it seemed interesting. I didn't see any problem with, you know, being with male models and dancing and trying to get your best pose out of, you know, movement. That's beautiful. But the male model, before the shoot even started, when she still had rollers in her hair and hadn't even gone to, you know, makeup yet, he's flirting with her and coming on really, really strong. And she was uncomfortable already before she even got in front of the camera. And my thing is with that, we gotta still keep in mind that these young ladies were young, and you don't know her background with men. Like, she could have been approached a different way, or, you know, touched or essayed, and just was uncomfortable with even the idea of men dancing around her. So when they get in front of the camera, what does this guy do? He takes advantage of the situation, and he's like moaning and making noises and making her uncomfortable and touching her. And she literally says, as she tried to channel Tyra, and what would Tyra do? Oh, Tyra would just politely and very professionally stop the shoot and ask somebody to help her. No. When she stopped the shoot, she was told to deal with it. And then the photo that they chose literally was this man's hand literally all the way up, like on her upper thigh. That's the photo that they chose. And she showed them, hey, look at that. That's why I was uncomfortable. And they're just like, you have to deal with these situations, and you have to be like, oh, you better back up off me. You better get away from me.
Tell him to back up and da-da-da. Don't be messing. Boo-boo, I am so sorry.
Come on, y'all. Like, come on. Like, Shandi. She was the outcast of her family. She was working at Walgreens. She was, you know, skinny, tall, brown hair, just, you know, just your everyday girl. You know, wore glasses, had a boyfriend, but never really got that embrace, that love from her family. And they gave her the makeover. They gave her blonde hair, and I mean, her photos, they never complained. Her photos were absolutely beautiful. She literally embodied a model. And when they went to Milan, they were going on their go-sees, and they had the guys on the little motorbikes that took them from place to place. And the guy that I guess was her guy, they spent time together all day. They were maybe comfortable with each other. Later on that night, somebody, and Mr. J confirmed on the show that it wasn't the girls' idea. They weren't able to plan any of their day. So it wasn't their idea. For whoever suggested for the guys from the motorbikes to come and have dinner at their their residence in Milan. He said he still would like to know who that was. But anyway, the guys came over, they're eating, drinking wine. It's, the three guys and the girls. And Shandi admitted that she hadn't had a lot to eat that day, that she probably drank 2 bottles of wine all by herself. And they went from dinner to the hot tub. And, things got kind of steamy in the hot tub. And here you are. Now, this is girl talk. Girls, if you're with your friends, and maybe they weren't friends like your girlfriends that you've known from day one, but they all were close to each other, and I believe they all wanted the best for each other at the end of the day, would you have let your friend go into the bathroom or go into a bedroom knowing they were drunk with a guy they just met? I wouldn't. I mean, I don't think I would let some stranger do that, just because you never know. And we're talking about alcohol here, and this is a random person. But yeah, they allowed it to happen, and they went in the bathroom, which the rule for production was if you're in the bathroom alone, the cameras can't come in. But if it's more than one person in the bathroom, then the cameras are welcome to come in. So the cameras went in, and we got this steamy shower situation with Shandi and this guy, and then they ended up in the bedroom. Again, why didn't somebody stop it? Somebody. The girl was intoxicated. Like, somebody. Stop. Yeah, and whatever happened, happened. But Shandi, she says she doesn't remember it, which is really, really, it's really disturbing that something like that was allowed to happen on a show that, Tyra says was to change the world, and to show, what happens behind the scenes with models. It just, it's just not a good look. It gets worse for Shandi. The next day, she has to deal with the guilt of what happened. She had a boyfriend. She cheated on her boyfriend. She does remember, part of the stuff that she allowed to happen, but the other deep stuff, she doesn't remember that. But still, she took accountability that she cheated on her boyfriend. According to Shandi in the documentary, she really couldn't call her boyfriend that much on a regular day. And when she asked to call her boyfriend, because she wanted to tell him what happened, there was a phone readily available, but guess what? It had to be recorded. One of the most difficult conversations that she had to have with her boyfriend, probably the most difficult conversation she probably had to have at that stage in her life, it had to be televised for the entire world to see. And it was raw. It was completely raw. She was bawling, crying. He was hurt. He called her a few B words. And she was literally, like she said, and like we all saw, literally in fetal position behind a chair, just bawling, crying, and the camera people are recording it. But Shandi did say that afterwards the camera people came to her and apologized for having to record that. So and then, did I already say that it got worse for Shandi? It got even worse. Worsel. No, I'm just kidding. I know the correct word. It got even worse for Shandi. Tyra. So that next day, after the boyfriend phone call, Tyra decided she's going to have girlfriend talk with the girls. And guess what the subject ended up being? Yes, I'll give you one guess. Cheating. And so I think Shandi brought it up. I think she said, has anybody ever cheated on you, or if you ever cheated on anybody?
I had one guy that cheated on me in Milano. He was a male model, child. And that just hurt me so much.
And Tyra was like, yeah, this guy cheated on me. And I was just like, hey, if you want to cheat on me, don't cheat on me. Go out and flirt. Just flirt. And then come home and take it out on me. Something to that effect. Tyra knew what happened because Mr. J knew what happened. So this is Tyra.
You okay?
Why, Shandi? Have you cheated? Tyra, know what happened with that girl. And was that really the time you couldn't take her aside or, you know, like that? And so Shandi is, of course, in a situation with her mentor where she has to feel vulnerable again. And then Tyra's like, I'm not judging you. But then guess what? Did I already say that it got worse and worse? Worse? It got worse for Shandi. You know they named the episode The Girl Who Cheated? Miss, I'm not judging you. And then in the documentary, they asked Tyra, hey, Tyra, let's talk about Shandi. Do you remember Shandi? Shandi. What? You remember Shandi, honey bun? You remember her, the girl that you invited to your talk show? And she asked that you don't bring up what happened in Milan? And you didn't only bring it up, you played the scene.
Now, before we talk to Shandi, I'm going to roll a little clip that a lot of us remember. Shandi, you weren't watching that. I saw you looking down. How come you can't watch that?
I just can't do it.
Really? It brings back like all the old stuff.
Oh yeah.
That's Shandi. And then after you play it, and she's utterly probably the color, her face color of my shirt, because I never watched the Tyra show. I can only imagine her face was the color of my shirt, or maybe purple, out of utter embarrassment and humiliation, then having to relive probably one of the worst moments in her life. Tyra asked her, I noticed you weren't watching that, Shandi. Is that hard to watch? And again, this isn't a bashing Tyra situation, but that's what really happened. And you know that what those girls went through had to be bad if this all happened like 20 years ago. And these girls that were on this documentary were literally boo-hoo crying off of stuff that happened to them 20 years ago. If that doesn't speak volumes, I don't know what does. 20 years ago and it still hurts to this day? And all Tyra can say is what? Oh, I wasn't a part of production. I was a master editor.
That's not my territory.
Something that was hilarious in this documentary, utterly hilarious, and I did not know this. I believe it was Miss J. He was kind of doing his little introduction, and they were introducing, I think, Tyra, and he said that Tyra, Mr. J, and Miss J, I believe, were in New York, and they were, just walking down the street casually, and somebody apparently thought that Tyra was Beyonce. And then the person was with somebody else, and they were like, no, no, that's the J's. That's Tyra. Yeah, do you see the J's? Yeah, that's Tyra. Basically insinuating that the J's carried that show. J, Miss J, Mr. J, y'all carried that show. That show would not have gone as long as it did. And, and it didn't once you guys weren't part of it. So, just so you know. Tiffany. Everybody remembers that. There's numerous, memes and shorts and reels reenacting that horrible situation that Tiffany had to go through with Tyra. So Tiffany was on the show previously. She got on the show and ended up having like a bar. I don't think it was a fight. Somebody threw a drink on. They were having words. Somebody threw a drink on her. She reacted, and since she was on a show, she had to be kicked off. So she got anger management, whatever. Ended up coming back. Cool. And she got pretty far in the process. And there was how they had like the little challenges at panel where they had to read, a prompter, and it had, difficult words to pronounce. They were a bunch of French designers' names, and everybody else crashed and burned. And Tiffany got up there, and at that point, I guess she decided in her head that she will no longer humiliate herself for this situation. And that's literally what she said. And, you know, Tyra told her, you know, well, if you don't read it, then you're getting sent home. And at that point, Tiffany was just like, I'll call your bluff. I'll call your bluff. And so it came time. America's Next Top Model is not. She had a blank piece of paper, and it was her and, was it Rebecca? I don't remember her name. The other girl, it was Tiffany and another girl, both at the end where she was going to cut one of them, but they both ended up being cut. And you got to know Tiffany. Tiffany wasn't somebody that was going to get emotional and get vulnerable and do all of that. You know, the other girl was crying. She was upset. And when Tiffany was going back and hugging the other girls and saying her goodbye, she's like, no, don't cry, y'all. It's fine. You know, oh, y'all, come on. Don't be sad for me. No, y'all do good. But that offended Tyra so much so that she called them back to the front and, you know, told the other girl, you know, I'm glad you're taking this seriously, because of course she was crying and vulnerable. That's what, you know, TV wants to see. And Tiffany was just calm, cool, and collected. And she was like, I'm very disappointed in you. And at that point, I think Tiffany, she had it. She was just like, you know what? I thought that this was for me. I thought you were for me, but you're not. And, you know, Tyra goes off on this whole tangent, and Tiffany was literally trying to explain herself. She's like, I've been through stuff. I've been hurt. I'm not going to cry in front of people. I'm not going to do that. And as she's literally pouring out her heart, maybe for the first time, she was pouring out her heart. Like, she literally was getting to that point where I think she was actually going to show some emotion. Tyra doesn't only cut her off. Tyra goes back crap off on her. What did she say? We were rooting for you. How dare you? And at that point, Tiffany was just like, but apparently it was bad what we saw. It was really, really bad what we saw. It was worse. What was cut was way worse than what we saw. And so much so that Nole Marin said that they, like the next day when they came to work, there were attorneys there. That's how bad it was. And since the because, you know, Tyra was like, I just loved her. I cared for her. And that was my baby and whatever. So after the documentary aired, Tiffany apparently came out on social media. And, I mean, she ripped the whole situation. Just ripped it. And none of us will really know what happened. And, but our eyes don't lie. And we saw the build up to that. And I think it could have gone a different way if Tyra would have actually let Tiffany speak and hear her out and feel what she was saying. But let's talk about Mr. J. So Mr. J was Tyra's makeup artist. And so when she first got the go-ahead for the show, she brought him in as the creative director. And I mean, QT Patootie, y'all remember Mr. J. Was he perfect on the show? No, and he admitted that. He had his moments with the girls where he was kind of pushy, wasn't very, you know, sensitive, but I think that was just him. He had to go along with the temperature. They had to make good TV. I'm sure they were under a lot of pressure once the cycles kept happening, like, you know, and it needs to be, you know, more. So he had to go along with it, and he even admitted that, which I appreciate. He did take some accountability. He really did. But what stood out with Mr. J was that when he finally had enough and he wanted to step away from the show on his terms, he wasn't allowed to. He had to actually go back. And when he said that he tried to reach out to Tyra a few times to tell her what was going on, and he ended up at least sending a formal email, you know, with his plans that he wanted to do other things. And 3 days went by, and she sends a text and says, I am disappointed. And then when they sat together at the very first judging the very first judging when they were selecting the models for the show, they had not talked, and he wanted to talk to her to try to clear the air. They had to act. that whole time. Never got to talk about it. And he just said that that was just the most difficult time for him on that show because it just wasn't real. He was just acting. And they were friends. Like, she even said that she would lay in his bed and they would go over ideas, and he would be at her house. Her mom would be, you know, over his house with her, and like they were very, very close. And for it to end, and what type of friend are you that, you know, your friend is explaining that, you know, they want to move on and do something different with their life, that they want to better themselves, that I don't know if she took it personal or I don't know, but she just totally just, I am disappointed. Think we all are. Miss J, Miss Runway Extraordinaire. So Miss J, Alexander, and Tyra go way back to when Tyra was 16 years old. She said that he taught her how to walk. How to walk since she was 16 years old. So when it came time to start the show, who else would she pick to help teach the girls how to walk but Miss J? And again, the little banter that Miss J and Mr. J would have together, that made the show. Like, you watched America's Next Top Model to watch them. You really, really did. They were just amazing. And Miss J, he was just unapologetically himself. And at that time, people just weren't doing that. So I think that's another reason why he stood out so much, because he was just authentically him. And, you know, we appreciate that. He stole that show. And was he perfect? No. He had some little thoughts and stuff that he would say off of the show, reality show standards of making great TV. And there was one saying that he used to say to the girls that I actually would carry with me, because I've been, you know, in sales most of my career. He would say, walk like it's for sale and the rent is due today. And that just really, just that motivation. You do find out in the documentary that Miss J ended up having a stroke in 2022. And he was in a coma for 5 weeks and in the hospital, I believe, for 1.5 years, and he was not able to walk or to speak. Walking and speaking were Miss J's product. And, you know, it was really, really difficult. And he was actually very vulnerable when he spoke about that on the documentary. And Nigel and Mr. J went and, you know, saw him, and he ended up coming and being interviewed for the documentary, and they just celebrated him and took pictures, and it was a really beautiful moment. But then when they asked if Tyra had visited him, he said that she sent a text and said that she wanted to, but still has not visited him since he had a stroke. And it's just heartbreaking, because they were so close. And just, you know, the ugliness, I guess, that is America's Next Top Model got in between her and people that she, you know, carried onto the show with her that she had known for so long. So then Mr. J brings up the fact that the three of them ended up getting fired by Tyra, and well, not Tyra. According to Tyra, it was the higher-ups that made her fire them. And she said, in order for me to be able to move on, I had to get rid of 3 things. This thing, and this thing. You know, she was talking about those 3 men. Nigel, Miss J, Mr. J. Things. And then what did she say? My 3 hearts. And out of all of the situations, all of the things, even the girls, when they got eliminated, they got videoed packing, but were just shoved in a hotel with no phone. So nothing could get leaked out about who won or who, whatever, before the show came out. None of that ever got out there. But somehow it was leaked to Page 6 that Mr. J, Miss J, and Nigel got fired. And in the documentary, you know, they admit that they believe that it was, you know, Tyra that actually leaked it to hype up, you know, the next cycles of the upcoming, you know, the series. So yeah, family, that's really all my reaction to the documentary. I really would love to know what you guys thought of it. Again, like I wasn't I can't wait till Top Model comes on tonight. And I lost interest in Top Model. I want to say I saw a few seasons with Twiggy, but once I did not know, and I didn't know that Mr. J and Miss J got and Nigel got fired, and there were actually cycles after them that they weren't on. I didn't know that Tyra got fired. I thought that she actually was America's Next Top Model, but no, she doesn't own it. It was her idea, but she does not own the actual name. And and with everything else that happened in that documentary, and that woman acting like she don't know what's going on, she had no problem plugging that there's going to be a cycle 25. So I won't be tuning into that. There's no reason for me to tune into it now, and I haven't tuned into it all this time. And I wonder if that was her only motivation for doing the documentary, was to plug that, to try to get, you know, some, I don't know, juices flowing, some people excited to come see that. I won't be tuning into that. But I really want to thank you guys for hanging with me. I would love to get some ideas of what you guys are thinking, and if you're going to be tuning into the cycle 25 that's coming out whenever it's supposed to be coming out. If you watched America's Next Top Model when you were younger, what you think of, you know, Mr. J and Miss J and Nigel and that whole scandalous situation. Do you feel like Tyra was sorry? Do you agree with people that are saying that she's canceled and bashing her and things like that? I always grew up, you know, if it's not bashing somebody if it's true. And, you know, I have not made any assumptions. I'm just going off of what was shown on the documentary and what was shown in the actual show itself. But yeah, I would love to have some conversations. Get in the comments. And again, Joe and Lynn react. Just Lynn today. If you love what you see, definitely please give us a like. And like my husband says, if you hate it, give us 3 likes. And definitely share, subscribe. We are on the road to 200. We are trying to just make this a thing. And we definitely need your help to do that. Thank you to all of those people that are, you know, doing mindless chores, our people that are on the road driving. Just glad that we can actually just be that positivity in your ear to help you get through just, you know, some time to let the time pass, and we can be there with you to do it. So again, thank you, and we will see you on the next one.